Hi, good
Okay.
morning, everyone. My name is Mark Singer. I'm the founder of Giftbee. We'll go ahead and get started on our session today. And today we're going to share a research incentive and reward study. Quick introduction to myself as we get started. So my name is Mark Singer. I've been in the gift card industry for the best part of 2 decades, having launched and scaled gift card programs across Europe and then APAC to the tune of multi-billion-dollar transactional businesses. I left the corporate industry, the corporate space, probably about 2 years ago, largely due to frustrations and inefficiencies of the industry. There was a true lack of innovation. Breakage-based business models had emerged as a pretty common theme, and ultimately, what I was observing was there was a big lack of customer centricity on all of the programs. Ultimately, the end user product was having horrible experiences, and off the back of those horrible experiences, the distributors of product were making more money. We started Giftbee to do something about that, and the whole premise of Giftbee is really to put the end user of product back on center stage. We want them to enjoy their experience because ultimately that's what's going to leave them coming back for more and create longevity and loyalty with the end users. Today's webinar is titled The Missing Conversation in Research. The more I get to know the market research industry, the more I'm really impressed by how much the companies and employees care about their market, whether it's quality of data, security, fraud, panel member engagement. It really is impressive to see how much that everybody cares on how they can improve their own businesses and the industry as well. Today, we will take you through a recent quant study that we've done in partnership with Pureprofile. Within this study, we deep dive into what respondents really think and experience with their incentives. We hope that the insights spark curiosity from everyone attending to explore what incentives means within their own organizations. So I will just spend a moment to talk about Giftbee before we get started. And really high level, our mission is to provide a world-class consumer experience. We do this through creating a continuous feedback loop with end users. And we have the actual recipients of our product at the center of everything that we do. What that means in terms of insights for us personally, we're using a few different methods to really understand the end consumers of our product. We do that through anonymous screen recordings through a platform called Hotjar. And that allows us to see behaviors and see how people are actually engaging with our platform. NPS surveys are another really big measure for our business. We really focus on particularly the poorer results of our NPS survey because the insights that we sort of develop from that can really help to improve our product direction. And we also do quite frequent qual and quant research. It was actually a qual study a couple of months ago that led us to the quant sharings that we'll share today. We picked up a few themes from qual respondents, and that led us to doing a much broader quant survey to validate some of the takeaways from that from those sessions. Moving on from all of this insight and data that we create, we sort of go into a process of ideation, design. We seek feedback on those designs, we iterate on those designs, and ultimately that then moves into product development. And over the past 12 months in particular, we've been making significant tweaks piece by piece to our product that are improving the way customers engage and experience our product. This is a continuous cycle for us, so we never want it to stop. And we always want to partner with our clients as well to make sure that we're seeking their feedback and engagement through the process. We really love the idea of co-developing our solutions to make the best possible experiences that we can. The idea being here, like I mentioned before, that we want everybody who's experiencing incentive rewards through your panels, through your programs, to ultimately have the best possible experience they can. Because ultimately that's what's going to leave them coming back for more. They'll hopefully bring their friends and become champions for the entire industry. So that's enough from me. I will hand to my colleague Nat Zai, who runs our operations team, for an introduction, and then she'll hand over to Adrien, who will kick us off with an introduction, and then kick us off with the findings. Thanks, Nat.
Thanks, Mark. Hey, everyone. I'm Natalie, head of operations for Giftbee, as Mark just mentioned. My background is over 20 years in gift cards, scarily enough, launching the Woolworths gift card program, managing other gift card and prepaid programs across Asia Pac and EMEA as well. And I'm here to help manage any Q&As you have. So if you have any questions during the presentation, just drop them into the Q&A section and we'll get them addressed. And hopefully you've got lots of questions, or hopefully the study prompts a lot of questions for you. And now I'd like to hand over to the lovely Adrien to take you through the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Nat, and thanks, Mark. And I'm Adrien Lanusse, and great to be here. I have over 30 years in the market research and insights industry. Most of that has been on the agency or supplier side, like many of you on this call, including a long stint at Kantar. And then I moved to the client side, where I led and grew the insights function at Netflix for over a decade. So this topic today is near and dear to my heart, having conducted a lot of studies, having commissioned many studies. And for the past couple of years, I'm very grateful and to have had the honor and the pleasure of working with Giftbee. So diving into the findings, let's see, just at a overview of the key findings, perhaps it's not surprising to most of you that incentive rewards are by far the top reason why research respondents participate in research studies. And we'll dive a bit into this in a moment. But also, participation is driven by very committed everyday respondents. However, some folks are far more prolific than others. And while incentives are the primary driver for doing research, the existing experience can be frustrating to many of these participants. Pain points include things like delays in receiving rewards or inflexible rewards and tracking issues. So people are putting effort into tracking and managing their rewards, despite it being the top driver. And lastly, there is an opportunity to improve this reward experience, which hopefully will not lead to just a better experience, but through some of the questions that we asked and then we'll share, hopefully it'll encourage the less frequent survey takers to engage more. So those are the top findings that we'll dive into. One caveat of the study is that it wasn't conducted with people who have participated in a paid research study in the past year. As mentioned, our hope is that we can work together to explore more ways to attract and engage an even broader audiences to participate in research surveys. So it's not just about getting people to do more surveys, it's about getting more people to participate in surveys. And as Nat mentioned, feel free to put any questions, comments in the Q&A, and we'll try to track and keep on top of those. So diving into the findings, again, as mentioned, the top reason that people say they do research studies is by far the reward. 57% of the respondents ranked the reward as their top reason for taking part in research, and 71% ranked it as the first or second most important reason. If you look, let's see, a little further down, the next reason, would be by far, or a distant second, the enjoyment of doing surveys. Only about 17% of respondents mentioned that as their number one reason. I do think that there's a lot of nuance in how all these different drivers interact with each other. And I know that this question can be quite controversial in our industry. I've attended a lot of other presentations where people have gotten into discussions as to what drives people to participate. I know we don't like to think that people are doing research for purely financial reasons, and I've seen many studies that show the actual amount of the incentive is perhaps less important than simply having a financial reward at all. But again, it is the reward that ultimately drives perceptions and participation. And we'll see that there's maybe some ways to broaden that out to give more incentive for people to participate. So I'll pause there for a moment to see if there are any questions or comments. So when we look at the folks who do engage, one of the questions is how engaged are these people who are doing the research? And again, keeping in mind that this is among folks who did at least one paid study in the past year, but among those, the majority did 10 or more studies in the past year. And that's the pie chart on the left. So you've got a fraction of folks doing a lot of research. On the other chart, we could see that over 3/4 of participants belong to at least 2 panels. So I know as an industry, we take great care to ensure our final samples are representative of the target population under study, but we also know it's becoming harder and harder to do that. We know it's a small fraction of the population who actually belongs to research panels to begin with. It's really hard to get data and to estimate what percentage, but the best I could do is find a US study that said approximately 6% of the population belongs to a research panel. So again, looking at these results, it's a good reminder that how do we not just get people to do more, but how do we engage people who are perhaps participating less? Also, when we look at the engagement, one other finding that's probably not surprising is that younger people report doing fewer surveys than older respondents. So those who are 55 or older are twice as likely than those 18 to 34 to report that they've done 10 or more studies in the past year. There are some frustrations with the current reward experience. So starting on the left, we asked people about their overall experience with reward redemption, and about a quarter of them rate it less than positive overall, a 3 or less. More concerning, though, as we move to the chart in the middle, is that only a third of respondents, or 35%, were very confident that they received all the rewards that were promised to them in the past year for doing research. One thing that was surprising when we dug into this is that it's not necessarily the people who are doing a lot of surveys who are getting multiple rewards that were the least confident. What was surprising is that it's the folks who are doing the fewer surveys who were the least confident. They perhaps don't know how the process works as well, or they're just busier people, but those people who are less engaged in doing surveys were the ones that were the least confident that they got all the rewards that were due to them. And then on the right, nearly 4 in 10 respondents said that they've had to actually reach out to a research company about a missing or incorrect reward, which is not only frustrating for the respondent, but this is time consuming for both the respondent and the research company to be managing this and having to track down where people's rewards are. Continuing on the topic of just the pain points, we asked respondents in the survey what, if anything, has been most frustrating with the experience of receiving or using research gift rewards. The number one issue that came up in an unaided fashion relates to the timeliness of the rewards. So people mentioned that timeliness, and other pain points include issues around limited or inflexible rewards, as well as tracking and redemption issues. On the right side, we asked people if various things had happened to them in the past year, and 2/3 of respondents said at least one of these has happened to them in the past year. 43% reported receiving a different reward from what was expected, and whether that was an error in what they got or in setting expectations, it was still, a decent proportion of respondents. Over a third, which is 36%, said they lost track of a reward received. 22% had a reward expire before they were able to use it. So these are pain points that in some cases can be avoidable. We also saw some differences by age, and this is kind of valuable that despite the fact that younger respondents are participating in fewer studies, and younger respondents are also more tech savvy than older respondents. Despite those facts, younger respondents were more likely to have reported issues with their incentive rewards. So on the left, we can see that things like losing track of a reward or had one expire before they were able to use it. These are issues that were far higher incidence among younger respondents than older respondents. On the right, also, younger respondents were less confident that they've received all the rewards that were due to them, with 68% of 18 to 34-year-olds feeling confident versus almost 90% of the 55-plus-year-olds. and that's a significant difference. So this may be due to less experience and less familiarity with the research process, or simply busier lifestyles that younger people have. But this was a bit surprising to us to see that among those who are doing fewer research studies are the ones that are reporting the most issues with their incentive rewards experience.
Adrien, could I just jump in and share one observation I saw through some of the qual research we were doing, and that was ultimately that some of the older demographic actually quite enjoyed and almost gamified the way that they used and deployed their rewards. So it's quite interesting to observe that they tend to have more time on their hands in many cases, and the actual management of the rewards is something they can invest a lot of focus on.
Yeah, and it plays out in the data that we're seeing. Lastly, beyond the pain points, we saw that there is a bit of a chore to managing their incentive rewards. Nearly 3 out of 4 respondents said that they put some effort into managing them and tracking them, from simple actions like saving emails in a specific folder to other efforts like taking screenshots or printing the emails, or even keeping physical or digital notes are things that people are doing simply to keep track of the rewards that they're getting for participating in research. On the right, we see that nearly about a quarter, 24% of respondents said that they don't find it easy to check the balance on a gift card that they received. So, despite the importance of rewards as a reason for why people do surveys, there is clearly some friction in the experience. So, as part of the survey, we tested out a variety of features to potentially improve the reward redemption experience. This was a range of features. I'll show you them in a moment, but they basically fall into 3 buckets of features. The first are being kind of core management features. So these are things like, greater visibility of balance across your rewards, or combining smaller rewards into a bigger one, or swapping cards for other brands. And these were the top priorities, and they directly solved a lot of the frustrations that people shared in their open-ended feedback. The second category of features that we tested were organizational tools. So like dashboards, history snapshots, or reminders of gift cards that are going to expire. These are features that support trust and transparency, which research companies need to be able to sustain that loyalty from their respondents. And the last bucket were ways to personalize or nice to haves with your research rewards, such as being able to donate them to charity or to regift it to a friend or a colleague. These may add delight, but we see that they're not necessarily the primary drivers of why they participate, although there were some differences by age, which we'll get into in a moment. So on the first thing is we asked about just sheer utility. Which of these features are going to be most helpful? And the top rated features are ones that provide greater context and visibility, like seeing the remaining balances on gift cards without having to go hunt it down if it's like visible somewhere, or having a dashboard showing the rewards I've gotten for different studies and which studies were they for. Sometimes respondents will get a reward and they're not aware, of which study it was for, because all the studies pay the same reward. So this was in terms of the sheer utility. One thing that's interesting, though, is we also asked among all these features, which are the ones that would actually get you to do more research? And when we asked it that way, we saw a little bit of a different picture. The most popular features are ones that give people greater flexibility in what to do with the rewards, such as the ability to swap out a gift card for a different brand, or the ability to combine smaller rewards into bigger ones, or to re-gift to a friend or coworker. So these are things that give people a little more enticement to do more work. Do note, though, on this finding that older respondents were twice as likely than younger ones to say none of these. I think older respondents are already participating a lot. They're probably maxed out, and they're probably relying more heavily on the incentives for their own personal use. Younger respondents showed more interest in features across the board as things that would make them more interested in doing research. And I will show one last slide here, which I apologize for the very dense chart. so we're not wanting to focus on the details of it, but basically wanting to see the pattern here. At the top, all respondents, and this is differences by age. At the top, all the basic management features were of equal interest to everyone across the board. But as we go down further into features that offer greater flexibility, like those of regifting, these features were disproportionately of greater interest to younger participants. So like the gray and the orange bars are the younger respondents and the blue is the older respondents. So we see this pattern of these features being of greater interest to those who are younger and those who are less currently participating in fewer surveys. So the rewards are equally important to young and old. Again, as I just mentioned, the younger response may not be as dependent on the rewards, and so may be more motivated to do research when they've got greater options for what to do with the reward. Again, we'll stop to see if there's any questions, comments. Otherwise, I will hand it back to Mark.
Sorry, I'm muted here. Thanks a lot, Adrien. Some amazing insights there. I'll just touch on a few key takeaways that I took away from the research, and I'll just focus on 3 ones in particular. First being that not all incentives are equal. What we're discovering is incentives that miss the mark can actually be quite detrimental, and that the experience of the end product, particularly for the younger demographic, as Adrien referred to, really matters. We also think that the type of incentive that's being deployed can be a really strategic tool for your business. When it's done right, they can boost engagement and retention. And like I spoke about at the beginning, we really want them to be desiring to come back for more and more. And the big one that Adrien was touching on at the end there as well is around modernization of incentives. So it can actually help you attract new audiences. Ease and relevance are important, particularly to the younger respondents that we all quite actively want to bring into our programs. So that concludes our session for today. Short and sweet. Again, big thanks to Adrien for pulling all of these great insights together from the data that we obtained through the survey. If people attending the session today leave curious to explore how their current incentives could be used as a lever to elevate their research activity, I'd personally consider that as a win. And yeah, we're here for any questions. If you'd like for us to set up another sort of presentation of this webinar with your team or your clients, we'd be happy to do so. And yeah, any follow up or questions, we're always here to field them. Nat, are there any questions in the chat or?
No, nobody's dropped anything into the Q&A. So if anybody has anything, now's your chance.
All good, perfect. Well, we won't keep everyone for any longer. Thank you so much for joining today. It's a pleasure to share this research with you, and we hope you found it insightful. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.